I understand what you mean. We aren't supposed to care about them. I mean, that's just it.
Right.
We were never.
So so having that scene, like I'm not thinking when half an hour later when he's driving and trying to knock her off the road. I'm
Yeah.
not thinking to myself, oh boy, it's a good thing that sick guy wasn't in today instead. Like
Yes.
it sets me up for I'm supposed to care about this character, or something's going to come up with him. He's relevant. He's important.
Right. Right. And
And
you listen.
it already prepares me. It already prepares, like I'm waiting for it to happen down the road. I know he's not going to die, and
Right. Okay. I think that's fair, except for me, listen, that opening sequence where he is already caught and desperately trying not to be ruined by these guys. The character's name, played by Nicholas Hoult, who was in Warm Bodies and a bunch of other things, Jack and the Giant Slayer, is Nux, N-U-X, Nux.
Knox. Okay.
That opening thing where he's trying to get away from those, crazy, bald-headed, white-faced maniacs
Yeah,
and scrambling through the tunnels and jumping out of the thing. I loved that. I mean,
I did too.
that was Indiana Jones. That was fantastic.
Yes, it was. But
What? You fucker. What?
sorry, no.
Oh, it's all right. What?
No, they did that Australian thing where they slightly undercranked it.
Oh, well.
Sped it up, and it was just a little. I was like, I didn't think Max Sennett was involved here. I thought it was just George
You
Miller.
didn't think it was Mad Max Sennett?
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Didn't bother me as much as it bothered you, because, again, they did a bunch of that in the second film. And probably in the first one, too.
I would. It's been a long time, but I think you could probably count on a hand and a half.
All right.
It's in the Road Warrior, how many shots that comes up in.
Okay.
Sparing.
Okay.
And here, it was like a Baz Luhrmann movie.
Okay.
Actually, there were several times I thought it was a Baz Luhrmann movie.
For me, loved the opening sequence.
I did too.
And that then leads to him being a human blood bag. To me, that blew my mind. I mean,
Okay, now hang on, because I had an issue.
yeah.
No, I had an issue with that.
Yeah,
because,
of course you did. Because you're trying to kill my joy. Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I couldn't understand really.
Yeah, go on.
I couldn't understand why they had him up there, because they do that in the Road Warrior. Except in the Road Warrior, they're there as human shields, because the people who are tied up in front of the trucks belonged to the little outpost colony that he hooks up with. Right. So that band of people has like a vested interest in nothing happening to those people in front of the trucks. Whereas today, no one gives a shit about who's on the front of their truck. You know what I mean? Like, she has no vested interest in it. Like, no one's like really supposed to care. So I was just trying to think, like, okay, well, it's obviously the car is souped up enough that it can be that it can withstand, battering something like another car.
Right.
So what's the point of putting the guy there except to just torture him?
As opposed to fitting him, say, behind where the gun was mounted, or some other. You just mean fitting him somewhere else. They essentially needed him there for his blood. End of story.
Okay, you know what? That was the whole thing I didn't quite get, was until much later.
Right.
Actually, it was when Nux says, he has that line about how he saw the whole thing. He saw it was my bloodline that drove the truck. That's when it occurred to me. I was like, oh, because I even saw it when it was like coiled through the chain.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand what was going on there.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. To me, I mean.
Well, then that makes sense. No, then that makes sense.
I mean, I still buy your thing that if Nux has his lifeline on the front of the truck, that's not the safest place for it to be.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
So
yeah,
just from Nux's point of view, it doesn't make sense. But to me, I sort of felt like that was more of a callback to the previous thing, where they're mounting them on the front without completely imitating itself. It sort of reinvented itself. I don't feel this is not a reboot. I believe this is a continuation of that story in much the same way that James Bond movies for many, many years were supposed to be a continuation, even though the actor changed.
Right, a continuous.
Yeah, because in amongst those flash frame clips, not that I spotted it, but I saw some stuff that I went, hey, wait a minute. Those many of those are images from previous films that Max himself witnessed. Do you know what the flash frames I'm talking about?
Yeah, except none of them looked to me like they were actually footage from the first one. Nothing from the second one.
Specifically, there's an effect shot where somebody's eyes either pop out of their head or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is in that previous movie, and that's definitely the shot used here.
I don't remember that.
According to what I read.
Well, that must be in the first movie because I don't think it's in the second movie.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. So I don't know. There was just a lot of little things I liked when the war truck or whatever they called it. What do they call that big one?
The
war machine, or I don't know what they called it. But
yeah, something.
When the guy who could use the chapstick, when Nux eventually crashes it.
Yeah.
It is that crash itself is an echo of the crash at the end of the first movie, at the end of the second movie.
Yes, it is.
I just felt like there was a lot of stuff where, it's not a reboot, and it's sort of it's weaving in that DNA in here. And I have to tell you that my older son was nuts about it. He loved it. He has not seen the previous one, so for him this is his Road Warrior, and I'm fine with that. Whereas I'm not fine with the fact that Phantom Menace is his Star Wars. He loves it the way we loved the real Star Wars. Now, speaking of George Lucas, or directors who take a decades-long break between telling portions of the same story.
Yes, sir.
I feel like George Miller, right? I'm not getting that wrong. Did a fantastic job in that, when all you need to do is compare him to George Lucas, who did a terrible job continuing that story, to the point at which he had to sell it to somebody else to continue telling it, because we won't sit still with him continuing to tell that story. When somebody doesn't do that long of a break, it should have just been horrible. It should have been the third one. I mean, it should have been Thunderdome. Horribly bad. Whenever anybody is gestating something for that long, think of all those directors who get enough power and enough juice to make the movie that they always wanted to make, and it's unwatchable usually.
That's true.
And so, to me, this was a triumph in that regard of a director sort of going back to revisit. I mean, even what's his name? Who did Boyhood? I'm blanking on his name. Richard Linklater. Richard Linklater has the triptych of before sunrise, after dinner,
right,
tomorrow morning, whatever those three are. Every single one of them is unwatchable as the last one, as far as I'm concerned. And he's taking several years off between making those things. I think it's interesting to go back to revisit actors playing the same characters over a period of time. I just don't think his slice of life stuff is all that compelling. I mean, Richard Linklater's life must be extremely boring if that's how he sees slice of life. I don't know if you know what I mean.
I do. I didn't think we were talking about Richard Linklater.
We aren't. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I got sidetracked by my own hate. What can I tell you?
You're just passionate. I'm
a passionate man. I'm a passionate man. Do you have any final words on
Linklater?
No. No, Mad Max or Fury Road.
I think I might have sounded less enthusiastic about it when we started. I did like it. I did like it very much.
I can tell from your face.
But it was not. It was in the discus throw competition that is cinema. For me, it was an arm's length away.
Yeah.
Being repeat viewing
Oh,
potential.
really? Oh, so you
Yeah.
will not go back to it.
Probably not. I don't think I didn't enjoy it that much this time that I think I don't know. I probably should see it again, but
Okay.
I feel like a lot of the stunts were edited so quickly and there was so much visual complexity going on that there were very few specific stunts I can recall now, and it's only been a few hours later.
Right.
Whereas in the Road Warrior, there are like specific crashes and somersaults and
That's
twirls
interesting. Yeah.
that all registered differently.
Well,
It could
let's
very well be because I was 30 years younger
yes,
and
let's
much more
chase the
impressionable when I saw the Road Warrior, and now I've seen, everything's been fast and furious to death.
right. Well,
So
even that reference. I would much rather see this movie than another second of Fast and Furious.
that's true. I would much rather watch this movie than see any of the Fast and Furious movies, which I'm
Yes.
happy to say I have not partaken
Well,
of one.
sadly, I have seen several of them, not chronologically, or well, yes, chronologically,
Well,
but
now
with
that's
gaps.
sad. Oh, okay.
With gaps in between. I mean,
Okay.
along with most of North America, I didn't see Tokyo Drift, but
Okay, good. I
okay,
I loved that Iron Maiden looking guy. I call him
yes,
Iron Maiden in my head. He was like the guy with that snarling dog mask, that leader.
yes,
Yeah.
fantastic, and I love the fact
More
that
terrifying than any of the guys in the Road Warrior.
yes, absolutely, very disturbing with the armor casing or whatever that. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah.
It looked like it was.
Frankly, I was just expecting him to just put the pins in his skin, the metals.
Yes, entirely possible. He was very off-putting. I'm trying to think. Something flashed through my head. Oh, I know what it was. I just love that the mask on Max in the first third
Oh
of the
yeah, yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and just that he's chained up and he's masked. He's just so helpless for so long. I liked seeing him get out of that, but get out of it slowly. Like it wasn't
Get
all
out of
solved
it,
in one instant and then he
pardon
was
the
done.
pun, in pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So all in all, yeah, an enthusiastic thumbs up me and a measured thumbs up maybe from you.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A measured thumbs up.